Wrong phone.
All right, please be seated, everyone. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've excused juror number 3. You shouldn't be concerned about that. There's nothing to be for you to be concerned. We're just going to continue with the 15 of you. And apparently, she took the wrong phone, so we're going to make sure she puts that phone back. She takes the correct phone, and we also will bring back in the tote of all the phones. I believe the state is ready for its next witness. Ms. Strong.
Yes, Your Honor. The state would like to call Kim Peace.
Peace.
Yes.
Kim Peace.
Kim Peace?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Please come on up. Remain standing and raise your right hand. The court reporter will swear you.
You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Have a seat, please. State your full name for the record. Spell both of your names. Kim Peace. Peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Strong.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Who do you work for?
I work for the Barnegat Township School District.
Okay. And in what capacity do you work for the Barnegat Township School District?
I am a first grade general education teacher.
And how long have you worked there?
I've been in Barnegat for 19 years.
Have you always worked in that school, in that capacity, for the Barnegat Township School District?
No, I started at the Lillian and Dumpy School. Then they grade banded. So for the past 3 years, I've been in the Collins School.
Can you explain what that means to me?
Oh, so when we grade band, so we were a K through 5 building. Then when they grade banded, so there was 4 K through 5 buildings, they grade banded. So now they have a preschool, 1 building, a K through 2 building, 3 and 4, and so on.
So then you moved to the Collins School to keep with the grade that you were teaching?
I did.
And what year did you move to the Collins School?
2020.
And that school year, first grade teacher?
Yes.
Did you attend college?
I did.
Could you tell us about that?
I went to Stockton, and I got my bachelor's degree and my teaching certification.
Were you employed as a teacher anywhere prior to the Barnegat Township School District?
Yes. So I started as a preschool teacher and at the private preschool. Then I moved to the Head Start again as another preschool program.
What is Head Start?
It's we provide preschool experiences for income eligible families.
So bringing your attention to the 2020-2021 school year, at that point in time, was school proceeding in a standard way?
It was not.
Could you explain that to us?
We were on a hybrid model. So we had broken our classes up into 2 groups. One group would come in on Mondays and Wednesdays in person, while the other group was at home. And on Tuesdays, Thursdays, the other group would come in while Monday and Tuesday students are at home.
At some point in time during that school year, the 2020-2021 school year, with certain COVID exceptions, did the format of school change?
It did.
When was that?
In January.
And how did it change?
So we went back to all of the kids coming in Monday through Thursday. Monday through Friday. But it was a shortened schedule, so we ended at 1 o'clock.
So prior to March of 2020, when COVID occurred,
right,
what were the hours of the school day?
In my building, it was 8:10 to 3.
So instead of being 3, it was 1 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay. So just a little bit less on the back end.
Exactly.
All right. Would you be the one to monitor attendance?
Yes.
How would you do that?
It was on the computer through a program called Genesis.
Could you explain how that worked?
Okay, so on Genesis, there was an attendance page with the children listed. So you would just click next to their name. There was a drop-down box, and you'd mark them present or absent.
Was there a student in your first grade class that year by the name of Breanna Micciolo?
Yes, sir.
And could you tell us when Corey first entered your first grade class?
In September of 2020.
Do you remember Corey?
I do.
What was Corey like?
Very, very smart. Well versed in math. He had math facts down. He could read. I loved the solar system. He had more knowledge about that than I did. He was very smart.
What other types of things did Corey like?
He liked to draw. He was a good drawer. I know there were certain characters that he watched. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but I remember seeing it in a book, and he was showing it to me one time.
Within the course of a school day, about how much contact with Corey did you have?
Most of the day, they did leave my class one time a day to go to the special areas like math, gym, and art and music.
Is it fair to say then that you were with Corey for 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. minus 30 minutes, 5 days a week?
Yeah.
How many teachers were assigned to your class?
There were 3 teachers. There was myself as the general education teacher. There was a special ed teacher that came to teach math with me, and then another special education teacher to teach reading with me.
Were you considered the main or head teacher for the class?
I was the classroom teacher. That's what they call it.
And how many students were in the class that year?
I about 20.
Would you ever communicate with your students' parents?
Yes.
How would you do that?
I used an app called Class Dojo.
Could you describe to the jury what Class Dojo is and how it works?
Sure. So Class Dojo is an app that the teachers put on their phones and the parents put on their phones, and it's kind of like you could be able to text them or message them throughout the day to share information about the classroom or information about their children.
How would parents get into your Class Dojo?
I had to send an email to the parents with like a link to join the Class Dojo.
Is this something just you used in your class, or did the whole school use the Class Dojo?
Most of the teachers use Class Dojo in my school.
Was there any type of way to, I guess, save the messages or keep them?
Well, the messages stayed. They never they don't come and go. So they stay until at the end of the year, you would archive the classroom. So then they wouldn't be on your homepage anymore.
And if you archived them, what could you do with them?
If I needed to, I could go back. I can unarchive if I need to go back and see anything.
Did you ever communicate with Corey's parents?
Yes.
And which of his parents did you communicate with?
I communicated with Mr. Gregor, and I was able to communicate with Miss Micciolo too.
Did you ever communicate with who you've described as Mr. Gregor in person?
Yes.
And when were you able to do that?
That would be when I was dismissing the kids at the end of the day at 1 o'clock.
And did you ever communicate with him on the Class Dojo?
Yes.
I'm going to direct your attention to a time period of March 2021. Was Corey still in your first grade class?
Yes.
Do you remember what day of the week March 22nd, 2021 was?
That was a Monday.
Were you in school on that day?
On March 22nd, I was not.
Who was taking care of or overseeing your classroom?
So one of my co-teachers was there that day, the whole day.
Are you aware if Corey was present in school on March 22nd?
He was.
And did you have a conversation with the aide and person taking care of your classroom about Corey when you returned to school?
Yeah, I did.
And as a result of your conversation with that person, Did you do anything with respect to Corey? As a result of the conversation that you said you had with the aide when you returned to school,
Right.
did you do anything with respect to Corey?
Like that day.
That day.
Like I had a little conversation with him, and that's it.
Now, did you return to school the following day, that Tuesday?
Yes.
And when you got to school, was Corey there on Tuesday? And where did you first see Corey that day?
In the classroom.
Did you make any observations of him?
I saw kind of like a burn, not a burn, but like it looked like kind of like a rug burn thing on his forehead.
And where were you when you made the actual observations?
I was just in the front of the classroom, greeting the kids as they came in.
Now, had you seen Corey in school that Friday, the 19th?
The Friday he was absent.
The Friday the 19th?
You know what? He was absent on a Friday. I maybe if I saw the calendar, I don't.
Would the calendar help refresh your
It
recollection
would.
as to attendance?
It would.
Judge, may I approach the witness, please?
Sure.
Ms. Peace, I'm showing you what's been marked for identification as S40. Could you take a look at S40?
Yes.
What's S40?
It's our Genesis attendance calendar.
Okay. Did looking at S40 help refresh your recollection with regard to Corey's attendance on March 19th?
Okay. March 19th, he was present.
Okay, thank you. So, do you recall seeing the mark on his forehead, the abrasion, on March 19th before the weekend on Corey?
No.
The first time you saw it was when you returned on the 23rd.
Exactly.
When you saw the injury to Corey, did you try to talk to Corey about what had happened to him?
I did.
And where was the conversation?
In the corner of my room, like behind my desk.
Were there other children around?
They were backed up in the classroom there.
Without telling me anything that he said, what was Corey's demeanor during the conversation that you had with him?
Just kind of like quiet, would just answer one word question, answer with one word.
Was that different than his normal demeanor?
Yeah, because he was able to like have a back and forth conversation and it would flow. But this was kind of just like one word answers.
What was Corey's demeanor like the rest of the day after you talked to him about the injury that he had?
I didn't notice anything else. He was quite normal after that.
And after you spoke to Corey on the 23rd, what, if anything, did you do with regard to Corey?
On that day or?
On that day. Did you tell anybody about it on that day?
Objection to leaving. It's overruled. It's appropriate to direct your attention.
Can you repeat the question?
I hope so. Did you talk to anyone about Corey after what happened that day? On that day?
I spoke with people that I work with, my co-teachers, and I know definitely the co-teachers.
Did you send Corey to the nurse that day?
I didn't.
Why didn't you send Corey to the nurse?
Because he had already gone on Monday, and the nurse had shared information with my co-teacher who passed what she did on to me.
Why did you speak with other teachers that you work with about Corey and what you observed and spoke to him about?
Out of concern, we wanted to see what each other were thinking.
Do you recall what Corey's attendance was during the week of March 22nd?
He was present the whole week, but he was absent on that Friday, the 26th.
And what type of absence did he have on Friday the 26th?
We would call it an unverified because no parent contacted the school to say that their student was going to be absent. So if someone called, it would be verified. If they don't call us, we consider unverified.
So nobody verified why Corey was out of school on March 26th?
No.
And what about the following week, the week of March 29th? What was Corey's attendance?
Corey was, he participated in school, but he went on the computer. He stayed home and went on the computer.
Could you tell me how that came about?
I got a message on Class Dojo from Mr. Gregor stating that he was with the other side of the family. There was a mass gathering, so he's going to keep him home to quarantine him that week.
When did you receive that message?
It was on Sunday, so Sunday the 28th.
Do you remember exactly what time you got it?
It was later in the day.
Do you remember the exact time?
No.
Would anything help refresh your recollection with respect to the exact time?
If I saw the messages, it has a timestamp on it.
I'm showing you what's been marked as S41 for identification. Could you take a look at it?
Yes,
Do you recognize S41?
I do.
What is S41?
So it's the message from Mr. Gregor.
Does S41 help refresh your recollection with regard to what time the message was sent?
Yes, it was 7:53 in the evening.
7:53 p.m.?
Yes.
And is that a complete and accurate copy of the message that you received?
It is.
Could you tell me specifically what the message said?
Sure, I'll read it.
Yes, please.
Hey, I just found out Corey's other side of the family had left the state and saw him this weekend after being at a mass gathering, so he will not be at school this week. Also, the week following spring break, he will not be there because he will be on vacation with me in Key West. In order to do the virtual learning, is there anything we need other than logging on to Google Classroom?
Is that the entirety of the message?
Yes.
Mr. Owen, I interrupted. So, ladies and gentlemen, recall yesterday I gave you an instruction on statements. So this is electronically recorded written statement. There is for your consideration at this time a statement which was electronically written and recorded, allegedly made by the defendant. It is your function to determine whether or not the statement was actually made by the defendant, and if made, whether the statement or any portion of it is credible. In considering whether or not the statement is credible, you should take into consideration the circumstances and facts as to how the statement was made, as well as all the other evidence in this case relating to the issue. If, after your consideration of these factors, you determine the statement was not actually made, or that the statement is not credible, then you must disregard the statement completely. If you find that the statement was made and that all or part of the statement is credible, you may give it what weight you think appropriate to that portion of the statement you find to be truthful and credible. Again, I'll always provide these instructions to you again at the end of the case. Thank you very much.
Ms. Peace, I want to direct your attention to the school calendar schedule at that point in time. Now, you just read in the message that Corey would be out the week of March 29th, correct?
That's correct.
What day of the week was March 29th?
That was a Monday.
Okay. Did your school have a spring break?
The following week was our spring break.
So when would your spring break have started? On what date?
It actually started on Friday, April 2nd.
Are you referring to S40, the school calendar?
I am.
And is it helping to refresh your
Yes.
recollection?
Yes.
And so I'm sorry, I missed it. What date would spring break have started?
It started on the Friday, April 2nd.
Okay, so that means there was no school on Friday, April 2nd?
That's correct.
Do you know why there was no school that day?
It was Good Friday.
And so when would spring break have ended?
It would have ended, so the following week, the 5th, and it would have ended on the 9th.
And did you say something about a vacation in the message?
I did.
So Corey's time out of school began on March 26th, correct?
Right, because he wasn't present on March 26th.
And when then would you have expected him back in school?
When they returned. So if he went virtual on the 29th, I would expect him back when we returned from spring break, which would have been the 12th.
And what about with the vacation?
Then I wouldn't have expected him back till the following week.
And when did that week end?
So the
following week end.
End.
Yeah, the date.
Yeah, okay. It would have ended on April 23rd.
So he would have been out of school physically from March 26th to April 23rd?
That's correct.
Okay. So did Corey participate in school after you received that message on the evening of March 28th?
He did. He participated virtually.
Okay. Tell me about that. What interaction would you have with a student when they're virtual?
We would have what's called a Google Meet. So any students that were virtual would join our Google Meet, and we would do our math lesson and our reading lesson.
So on March 29th, did you take attendance with your in-person students and your virtual students?
Yes.
What was Corey's attendance?
He was present.
Virtually?
Virtually.
And were you able to see him virtually?
I was.
And what, if any, observations did you make of Corey when you saw him virtually on March 29th?
I saw bruises on his cheek.
Is that the same as what you were describing from March 23rd?
No, that.
And did Corey attend school virtually on March 30th?
Yes.
Did you observe him?
Yes.
What, if any, observations did you make?
The bruising still.
Did Corey attend school virtually on March 31st?
Yes.
What day of the week would that have been?
That was a Wednesday.
Did you observe him?
Yes.
What, if any, observations did you make?
The same, the bruising.
Were you able to observe his demeanor since you were virtual?
It's hard because they're not very comfortable. So he was kind of just sitting there and just answering questions. And
what about Corey's attendance on Thursday, April 1st?
I didn't hold meetings with my virtual students because that was like a party day before our spring break.
So if students had attended virtually on April 1st, they would have had to watch the party?
That would have been, oh, yes, April 1st, yes, exactly. There wasn't any teaching going on, so.
So Corey missed the party?
Right.
Okay. And April 2nd was Good Friday?
Yes.
No school?
No school.
That week, the week of March 29th, did you speak to anyone about Corey?
I did.
Tell me, when was the first time you spoke to someone about Corey that week?
I believe it was the Monday the 29th. I received a phone call.
Without telling me what that person said, who called you?
A DIFUS worker.
Do you remember that person's name?
I do.
Okay. What's the person's name?
Valerie Allegory.
All right. And did you have a conversation with her?
I did.
And did you talk about Corey?
Yes.
And why did you talk about Corey to that worker when she called you?
Because I wanted to voice my concern about the series of events that were leading the past couple of weeks, and that I felt something wasn't right.
Something wasn't right with what?
Seeing the bruising, seeing the injury on the forehead, and then him not being there virtual, or him going virtual on the 29th.
And after your conversation that you just described, did you have any other conversations that week with anyone about Corey?
I did.
When was the next conversation you had with someone about Corey?
It was the next day.
And the next day, who did you speak with?
I don't know his name. I think his first name was Mark.
And how did that conversation come about? Did you call him? Did he call you, or something else?
I called him
And how did you get his phone number?
from from Valerie the day before.
And when you called Mark, did you actually talk to Mark?
I did.
And why did you call Mark?